In a land where cacti outnumber cell towers and the horizon stretches further than a fiber optic cable, it's time for Valley's Bits, Bytes and Banter, the podcast that looks a bit behind the scenes of a broadband provider, takes a big bite out of the tech world, and serves up a healthy dose of banter with people in our community. And now, without further ado, here's your host, Bob Dahlstrom.
Hey again, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Valley's Bits, Bytes, and Banter. As Lee Patterson said in the intro, I'm Bob Dahlstrom, along with my co-host and partner in crime, Ralph Score.
Yeah, crime is right.
Yeah, well, you get the two of us together, you never know what's going to happen, so that's always scary.
We're still like teenagers in a room.
Yes, we are. So. Yes, we are. And thank you guys for tuning in for another episode. And if you haven't tuned in before, why not? First of all.
Yeah.
Second of all, we appreciate you guys tuning in today. And this is a podcast that we do courtesy of Valley TeleCom. And we like to feature interesting people in our communities. That's the focus on every episode we do.
And we have a real interesting one on the show today.
Yes, we do. For sure. And she's feeling the pressure now. She's looking like, really? Guys, come on. And we talk a little bit about what's going on in the tech world. Yep. We talk a little bit about maybe behind the scenes of what we've got going on at Valley. Yeah. But the main focus is our guest.
And where can they find us, Bob?
I'm so glad you asked that, Ralph. And like any other podcast, you can find us on podbean.com. That's where we host our podcast. You can go on there and search Valley's Bits, '*S. You can find us on there. We are also on Apple Podcasts. We're on iHeart, Spotify, or wherever you may download your podcast.
We're on about 20 different outlets, plus YouTube,
plus on our website.
Yeah.
Go to vtc.net/blog, and at the top, you'll see the story about us. You click on that. Every episode is there.
Yeah.
And they will continue to be there.
Yeah.
And feel free to subscribe to us and like us and listen to this and share it with your friends.
Yeah. If you like what you hear, share it with your friends.
Yeah.
That's right.
Absolutely.
That's right.
Ralph, you brought some interesting stuff to talk about. So speaking of that.
There's some stuff that's recently happened in the courts that have to do with communications, actually, with our company and with what happens in rural America. There's a thing called the Universal Service Fund out there. A lot of people don't necessarily know what it is, but any bill that you look at, you'll see a little thing in there, and a USF fund or a fee.
A monthly charge.
Yeah, and that helps fund communications in rural America. It started out when they were doing telephone, and now it applies to digital services across the area. And recently, there was a 9-7 ruling in the United States Court of Appeals for the Fifth Circuit that ruled that it was unconstitutional. So it could go away. We don't know where this is going to go.
Ask for the USF, Universal Service Fund.
Yeah. So we imagine it will eventually make its way up to the Supreme Court, but without it, it's going to make it really hard pressed for people who live in economically deprived areas to afford it.
Well, it does make it easier for companies that work in rural areas such as Valley Telecom to subsidize what we do and to pass that savings on to our customers. So the whole reason for it is to make service more affordable for people in rural areas because it is more expensive to bring it to people in rural areas than it is in metro areas.
It's really expensive to run miles and miles, especially fiber optic cable net, which we're trying to take everybody to.
Correct. We could do a whole show on that.
Yeah, so we'll see what happens with it. There's a response from the NTCA, which is the Broadband Association. And in their response to the Court of Appeals, they basically said the Universal Service Fund has been and continues to be a critical tool to narrow the digital divide and help address connectivity gaps. The court's decision today deals a severe blow to these efforts and could put at risk the availability and affordability of essential communication services for millions of rural Americans, low-income consumers, and community anchor institutions. And anchor institutions are schools and libraries. So the fact that our guest today deals with one of those things is going to be could have an impact. That's right. So we steadfastly believe that the Universal Service Fund is constitutional, and we will continue to fight for universal connectivity. And that was in response to the ruling.
And that started, I don't even remember the year. It was years ago, and it was in response to telephone service originally.
I think it was 1996. It was part of the Telecommunications Act. It was 96 or 97.
Transitioned to internet when internet is now. The main modes of communication for everybody, right? Is to get online. Everything's on the internet.
So it really can impact us, especially with the fact that the Affordable Connectivity Program, ACP, went away. That sunsetted. So that helped a lot of people. That helped up to 23 million Americans offset the cost to be able to get internet service.
And companies had to opt in to participate, which Valley did gladly.
I think we were one of the first ones that got on board with that whole thing.
We were, and to make it even more affordable for people that really are struggling financially. But obviously, like I said, everything's on the internet, right? Including education. A lot of times it really comes in handy when it comes to education.
Yeah. So let's get a little lighter now. How about a little bit of spurious facts you may not have known existed? The spurious facts of the day. That's right. Did you know that the population of the Earth would fit inside of Texas at the same density as New York City?
I'm trying to wrap my head around that.
Texas is a big state. It probably would be
Texas is huge.
Be a blip in Alaska.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. But they picked Texas.
Yeah. And here's in case you want to completely distort your sense of history. Did you know that Pocahontas and William Shakespeare died within a year of each other and less than 150 miles apart from each other?
Did they both partner with Lewis and Clark and go find?
I think William Shakespeare. I think he wrote a play about him or something like that.
Sorry, Marci. Marci's looking like I don't know what you're talking about. That's ridiculous.
And then,
I'm sorry.
And then finally, to further distort your sense of history, there was a time when a samurai could have sent a fax to Abraham Lincoln. The fax machine was invented in the 1840s, and the first commercial fax service was started in 1865. Samurai were around until the late 1870s, and Abraham Lincoln was alive until 1865.
And then the next year, long-distance carriers were discovered for the faxes.
And those are your spurious facts of the day.
That's all interesting and very spurious, Ralph. I appreciate that.
I knew you'd appreciate that.
I need a second to wrap my head around that a little bit.
The samurai?
Everything. The fax, Shakespeare and Pocahontas.
These are things you never wanted to know. It's kind of like the woolly rhino. I bet you never knew there was a thing called the woolly rhino, did you? Everyone knows about the woolly mammoth, but they don't know about the woolly rhino.
I did not know about the woolly rhino.
Everybody do some research.
Everybody, please get out there online.
That's right.
And look it up. There's places you can do that, right? Wow. Okay, now we're all going to try to wrap our heads around that. And when we come back from our short break, we will introduce you to our special guest. Stick around. I'll be right back.
Valley Telecom Internet keeps you connected at the speed of life. Our fiber optic network provides fast speeds with unlimited data, whether you're gaming, streaming, or downloading your favorite podcasts. To find out what speeds are available in your area, give us a call at 800-421-5711 or go to vtc.net. Life moves pretty fast, and so should your internet. So get connected with Valley Telecom. And don't forget to download the latest episodes of Valley's Bits, Bytes, and Banter wherever you get your podcasts.
Welcome back to Valley's Bits, Bytes, and Banter. I'm your co-host, Bob Dahlstrom, along with my partner in crime, Ralph Score. And as we mentioned at the top, be sure to download, subscribe to our podcast. You can find it on podbean.com or the Podbean app, right, for free. Just search Valley's Bits.
Yep.
Apple Podcasts, iHeart, Spotify. There's a million others. Amazon Music. There's a bunch. You can find it on vtc.net/blog and on YouTube. You can actually go on there and listen to it on there.
Yeah. No video yet, but that's coming.
No video yet, but sometimes it's if you need a transcript, like especially for spurious facts, maybe YouTube would be a great place to go.
There's a transcript there, and there's also captioning too, so you can keep up with what we're doing. So,
and we did touch a little bit on education, and ladies and gentlemen, that has a lot to do with our guest today. We're out at Duncan High School here in Duncan, Arizona, right before school year is going to start, and we know that because we can hear all the construction. Everybody's full bore outside, getting ready to go. Ladies and gentlemen, our special guest today is a former Valley Telecom employee and a former owner of Gila Outdoor over in Thatcher. She and her husband now own a funny farm, and I'm going to ask you about that, Marci, as we come up.
Isn't that where the insane people stay?
I always think of the Chevy Chase movie, A Funny Farm. But she was a 4-H community club leader for years, has coached local sports, state coordinator for Scholastic 3D Archery, correct? Has coached youth archery, as a matter of fact, for over 15 years, and is currently the principal out at Duncan High School. Ladies and gentlemen, Marci Harris. Marci, how are you doing?
I'm good. Thanks for having me.
It's good to see you.
Thanks.
I didn't say that before, but it's been a while.
It has.
Because we both worked at about the same time. And I remember you working over here in Safford, at our Safford office. A lot has changed since then.
Yeah. I started up in Morenci, and then we moved on to Clifton, and then eventually I was over that Safford office.
It just seems like everybody does that. Everybody moves around to the different offices. And you've been up to, now I know that, I remember from back in the day, you were an avid hunter.
Yes.
You and your husband both love to hunt. Is there anything specific you love to hunt, or anything more above than anything else?
Not particularly, but the method is more, just about anything, but I prefer to be out with my bow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Archery is your go-to, obviously.
Yes.
And you're very good at it. Yeah, that takes a very good skill, patience, quiet.
Definitely patience. I think I have an incredible amount of patience. Honestly, it's the adrenaline rush. The closer you get is way better than shooting one that's 400 yards away. It's just so much better. And how close can I get? And even when it's a blown stock, it's just amazing.
Yeah, okay, you mentioned that. Now tell me about that. Is a big rush. I know my son is a big hunter, and he's living in North Dakota right now. Nothing to do with either here nor there. But all hunters have a story that like their favorite hunt, their favorite game. You've got one. I know you've got to have it, Marci. Tell us about it.
I do. It was the one that got away. We traveled over to Australia. We have a friend over there, so he had come over and hunted with us, and we went over there to hunt with him. And we were hunting up in the northern part of Australia for water buffalo.
Wow.
And it was so exciting and yet nerve-wracking at the same time. I took my son there, and he was only, I think he was 8 or 9. And there were crocodiles everywhere and all of the deadliest snakes and all of the things. And I'm like, I'm a horrible mom. Why did I bring my child here? But it was so much fun. And I had, so it was really difficult to get in on the water buffalo to get that stock.
Yeah.
And so pretty much all the guys, my middle son actually did shoot one with his bow. And everybody else had switched to rifles because as the days went on, it wasn't successful, and they all wanted to harvest something before they went home.
Right.
So they had all switched to rifles, and I kind of just stuck to my gumptions and said, no, I'm going to stick with my bow. And so I had right at the end a stock out 33 yards I had embedded down. And I'm shaking like a leaf, and I'm out in the middle of this completely open floodplain, so I had nowhere to go if he decided to run toward me.
They are a pretty dangerous animal.
Intimidating.
Yeah, it's not like a Cape buffalo, but they still have an element of danger to them.
Right.
And so his head went up because the grass was so tall that you could just see the tip of his head.
Yeah.
And so all of a sudden you see his head go up, and I knew he had sensed us that close. And my son was behind me with the camera, so we got all of this on video. And he said, the older son anyway, not the little one, and he said, draw back as soon as he gets up. And I'm like, yeah. And so he jumped up, I drew back, and he darted off. Like, he never even stopped for a shot. And I turned around, and he got all this on camera, and I said, I'm glad he ran that way instead of this way, because we had nowhere to go.
Yeah, what are you going to do, right? Yeah. I mean, you're so exposed out there, and like that, holy cow.
I was shaking so much, I'm not sure I could hit the broadside of a barn, but I was going to attempt it.
Oh my gosh, what a story.
It was so much fun.
Oh, and to go so far.
Yeah.
To Australia. That's amazing.
We were so fortunate to meet some friends through the hunting world, So we had a friend there in Australia and another one in New Zealand. We've just done a little bit of trading back and forth.
Right. Well, I mean, and obviously you've got a love for it and a passion for
for sure.
The bow.
Yes.
And archery, because teaching others and all that. And did you do that when you guys were owned Gila Outdoor? Did you still teach people archery and stuff?
That's where I got started, when I actually first started teaching anybody else. Before that, I don't even think I was that great at it. And so I had to go to school to become a certified technician to be in the store. And at the same time, I took shooting lessons from Alex Kovac, I think is how you say his last name, out of PSC. He's a Olympian instructor.
Oh, wow.
And so that was really eye-opening, and I learned a lot about my own technique. And after that, I started actually instructing. And so I started a youth archery group right then when we had Gila Outdoor.
PSC, they're over in Tucson, right?
Correct.
That's their main place?
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's amazing. And you and your husband did it together?
Uh-huh.
Did the store together. And what was your next step after the store? I mean, that had to be such an amazing start, right? Such an amazing adventure to do that and all the new things you were learning. That's where you got, I don't know the right term, you got the archery bug. I mean, you got all that to do that. So after that, what was your next step after that?
So it was really fun, but it was really wearing on a family too. We quickly just realized we weren't going to move to the Gila Valley down by Safford and Thatcher and all that. We really loved our property up here in Greenlee County.
Right.
And so we shopped around, never found anything comparable. And we were driving sun up to sundown, all of us as a family. I even moved Toby, our youngest, into school down there. And it kind of just got wearing on a family. And Toby was starting to raise 4-H animals and things like that. He needed some time to be home training them and things like that. So it was just one thing came to another. We got an offer and I kind of jumped on it.
Right.
And
sounds like it was good timing too.
Yeah. And it was time for him to get to be a kid again. And he was going into junior high, and a lot of big things were going to start happening, for kids at that age. And so we needed to be home more. And
well, that's quite a commute. I mean, if you're going back and forth to Thatcher for the business every day,
most Saturdays, we were just constantly at the store.
Right.
My husband still had his full-time job at the mine, and so I was married to the store.
If anybody needed to find you, that's where you were.
Yes.
It was the store.
Yes.
It sounds like a good choice. I mean, you're right. I mean, at that point, you got to make some decisions, and things happen in life. Things change as you go, and goals change. So when did you start having the time to teach local youth and all that, like archery and getting involved in 4-H? Was that right at this moment?
It was. I started that youth archery club while we were at the store. And so every Tuesday night, I had a great big group of kids that came in, and I taught them how to shoot and everything. And that was fun. And that's actually what led to the next step. Was when we sold the store, my husband said, don't just go get another job. Like, really decide what is it that you want to do. And I said, I already know. And he's like, what's that? I said, I need to go into education.
Really? You knew that, right?
Yeah,
that's what you wanted to do.
It was immediate because I enjoyed Tuesday nights. That was the thing I loved about being at the store. I didn't love the accounting. I didn't love the marketing. I loved my Tuesday nights with the kids.
Right. Teaching them all about it. Mm-hmm. That's amazing. So that's how you got started in education. So where did you start in education?
So I took a job. There was an opening available here in Duncan. It was a K-8 computer teacher. And so I taught an elective class for 1 year. I also did their Title I reading program, and I did their ELL program for English language learners.
And all that for a year, or you did that longer?
For 1 year. I just did it for a year, and then we were just trying to get situated because I knew I was going to have to go back to school to get a degree, and there weren't any actual teaching positions open, and I didn't have my degree yet. So it was I knew I had some work to do. So then I went to work for the ADOT for a little while, the
right.
Department of
Transportation.
Thank you.
That's why I'm here.
Yes. Anyway, so because I didn't want to take out a loan, so we paid cash so I could go back to school and get my degree. And so that took a few years, and then a position opened up, and I started teaching.
At what level did you teach at that time?
Junior high math.
Junior high math. Wow.
Mm-hmm.
And you didn't like the accounting side, but you taught math.
I love math, to be honest. Yeah, and because it's black and white, it's easy.
So is it like you just didn't like doing math? Is that what it is?
No.
Didn't like doing accounting, which is a totally different type of math.
Right. It wasn't, no, I loved actually doing the numbers. I'm a very numbers-oriented person, but it was all of the laws behind everything. I did all of our own taxes. I did all of our own payroll and making sure to do all of that and keeping up with the regulations and the taxes and stuff. It was nerve-wracking. I guess I was always afraid of.
Right there,
I was always afraid, I'm going to mess something up.
Yeah. Math was my favorite subject in school. Loved math, but kind of the same thing, right? 2 + 2 = 4. Never going to change. That's right. Always the same.
I don't know. There's a multiverse out there that might have.
Well, there's somewhere where it's 3.99 or something. But yeah, math. I think it's one of the reasons math. I was good at numbers, and it just really kind of drew me to it.
So how did you get from teaching into the admin end?
So I absolutely loved teaching, and one of the struggles we have in rural education is finding resources, finding staffing. And so an administrative position had opened, and everywhere I worked, I ended up somehow back into leadership. And I don't know. It was like a magnet for me. And I didn't anticipate that when I got my teaching degree at all. I thought this is where I'm going to be for the next, 20 years and whatever.
Right.
But a position opened, and I thought, I feel like I need to help out. I think I need to do more. So I applied for it. And eventually a guy out of Tucson applied for it who was already certified.
Okay.
So they ended up hiring him, which was perfect timing because that that summer I got diagnosed with breast cancer. So I had a bit of a challenge to overcome. And I was so glad I had not gotten the administrative position, because I don't know, I feel like I would have shortchanged somebody.
Well, yeah, you need to focus somewhere else at that point.
So it was a blessing in disguise. But the gentleman didn't last 1 year, and he did not come back. So the position opened again, and I thought, I got to do it again. I got to try it again. So I put my name in the bucket again, and I got selected. And so I didn't have my degree yet. It's kind of a weird thing when you're out in the middle of nowhere and you go get a master's degree. There's 2 places in the whole county that you could utilize it for. You kind of don't want to go put that money forward until you have a reason to.
Right. Yeah, exactly right.
So I didn't pursue a master's degree until I got the position. And so I was the dean of students for 1.5 years while I finished my master's degree. And then mid-year last year, I became the principal.
Mid-year last year. Mm-hmm. And how's that been going?
It's great. It's really fun, and it's challenging, and it's an emotional roller coaster, all of the things.
Right.
Not to mention the rattlesnakes. Right.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, we've killed a few rattlesnakes on campus.
Have that rattlesnake wrangler on staff here to take care of it.
Is it that part of the principal's job, is the rattlesnake wrangler?
It is. I just killed one at home like 2 days ago, or maybe it was 3 days ago.
Well, yeah, if you live out in the rural area in the desert, those kind of things happen, right?
It does.
They're just wild one's going to come across campus occasionally, every now and then.
Yeah, they don't know any different.
No, they don't.
There's grass and bushes just like that.
Right, they're going. So I know that. So you've been working in education for a little while, and so that means when the pandemic hit, you were in education, right?
Yes.
So as a teacher, you were at the time, and now even as a principal, how does technology play into it? How did it play into it then? Because so many people had to go work from home full time, trying to have students at school, taking school online, and then a lot of places just kind of ended up in a different place when it was over. Like maybe just a combination of both, or back to the way it was. How about here? How did you guys handle that?
There's definitely some pros and cons that came out of that. I would say the pros were that all of our staff, including myself, became a lot more technology driven. We understand a lot more. We developed a whole new set of skills.
Right.
And that's really great, because now in the classroom, our instruction can be more engaging. We're kind of up to date with the kids and things like that. I would say the con, though, was that there was this short period of time where kids weren't taking education seriously. And to get them back into that drive again, it was really hard.
Right.
We still struggled to some extent with attendance for that reason, because they kind of got used to being home.
Yeah, you're right. It doesn't feel like school when you're working from home. It doesn't feel right.
No.
You lose the structure,
the
discipline, and all that. That has to be tough.
I think the same thing happens even in the workplace.
Agreed.
I agree.
We noticed that, yeah.
Yeah, it was. I for one, hated it, because Valley did it for almost a year.
Yeah.
Didn't we, working from home? And I know, at least from our department, being in marketing, it's a very collaborative effort. And you're online all the time trying to work together. I hated that.
Well, it's funny because being the media guy, I had to be in the studio because I didn't have a good enough connection at home to work on projects. So, and it was a ghost town. I was the only one in the building. Well, nobody even knows I'm here.
Occasionally, I'd sneak in.
Yeah.
You would not come in and work in the office.
I took my computer out to the goat pen and sat down in the middle of all these baby goats and taught my lesson just to keep the kids engaged, like give them something entertaining.
Did you do like video lessons with them so they could see all the goats?
Yes.
That's awesome. They could hear them, see them.
Instead of goat yoga, it's goat classroom.
Goat math.
Goat math.
That's awesome.
If I have 3 goats. I love that. That's great. Well, obviously, technology is still a big deal in education, even now in the classroom. And we'll probably touch on that a little bit, if you don't mind, Marci.
Absolutely.
As soon as we come back from this short break, guys, we'll be right back.
Join Bob Dahlstrom and Ralph Score right here as they provide a look behind the curtain of a broadband provider on Valley Telecom's new podcast, Bits, Bytes, and Banter. In every episode, they will take a bite out of the tech world and provide a healthy dose of banter with people in our community. Plus, they'll share funny stories and a bit about what is going on in their worlds. Look for Valley's Bits, Bytes, and Banter on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts.
And we're back with Valley's Bits, Bytes, and Banter. I'm your host, Bob Dahlstrom, along with Ralph Score, my co-host and partner in crime. And today's episode, we're talking with our special guest, the Duncan High School principal, Marci Harris. And Marci, we were just starting to touch on technology in the classroom, at least now, because we talked about how weird it was during the pandemic to try to keep the curriculum moving forward. But now that everything's back relatively normal, everything's back in the classroom. Have you guys brought more technology into the classroom or using technology in the classroom? How does that work now? How does that feel?
We definitely have more in the classroom now. But I think what we're trying to do is kind of go back to the hands-on stuff too. Yeah. So that there's sort of a good mix. We want our kids to be very, very good. Now we have AI in the classroom, and that's a whole nother challenge.
No kidding.
In itself.
Yeah.
And so our teachers are learning how to use AI and teach kids to use AI responsibly. And so instead of hiding from it or pretending it's not there and hoping they don't use it to write their essay, they're going to be incorporating it into the lesson, and they're going to we have to teach differently now.
If you don't embrace some of the technology, it will run you over and leave you behind.
100%.
You can't ignore it. Like you said, AI is here. It's everywhere. It's interesting because even we went some training recently, Ralph and I did, learning a little more about AI. And one of the terms that one of the experts talked about, what really stuck with me, is AI can be taught. It cannot learn. Meaning, it'll always need that human element.
Yeah, it's an 80-20 proposition where it's 80% human element that uses it. It's really good at some stuff, and at other things, well, you don't want to necessarily rely on it for your sources on a paper you write.
Which is another good reason why to teach it in the classroom and get comfortable with it now.
Right. I know some of the lessons I've talked to our teachers about is they're going to let AI write a paper for the kids, and then the kids are going to have to critique it and find out what's accurate and what's not accurate.
Oh, that's a good way to learn. I like that.
Yeah.
Another thing to be aware of on AI is that a lot of times if it's pulling stuff that has already been written and copyrighted, if you use it verbatim, then you're liable for the copyright too. So it's using it as a base and then rewriting it a lot of times.
Yeah.
You're right. Human review. It'll always need that. And that's a great way to teach students how to do that.
Right. And I told it, the discussions I've had with our English teachers specifically is we have to teach communication. It might look different. It might not be writing a 9-page essay. It might be talking and looking somebody in the eye and being able to communicate.
The
engagement thing. Yeah, it's real important.
Yeah, I mean, everything, especially technology related, is changing. And right now, so fast that you have to get comfortable with it and have to understand it. And AI is a big part of that.
Right. You can't be old school when it comes to that stuff. You've got to stay on top of it.
Absolutely. Wow. I love that you guys are pulling that in. All right. So, Marci, one of the things we like to do in every episode is we ask a question of the day. And we warned you about this. I know you won't know what the question is, but you do have some control over it. So
we might not have warned you enough, but it's okay.
These are more conversation starters, maybe icebreakers. You've kind of heard and I know we've had guests that said that no, this is wrong, but there is no wrong or right answer on this. So the question of the day is: it's a question between number 1 and number 7. There are 7 you can choose from. You choose the number, and I'll read the question. So choose a number between 1 and 7. 4. Which of the 7 dwarves is most like your personality? Now you got to think back. What are the 7 dwarves? I'm doing that in my own mind right now. I'm thinking about that.
I don't know. Which one goes 100 miles an hour and doesn't stop?
Probably Happy.
Yeah, it wouldn't be Sleepy.
Okay.
Or Dopey.
Yeah, Happy. It's got to be Happy.
It's got to be Happy, right?
Yeah.
Is that you? You're a positive person? Go.
Oh, for sure. And I've been named the person who has rose-colored glasses because no matter what's wrong, I'm like, oh, let's fix it then. I bet we could do this.
Yeah.
So I'm always finding the positive spin of it.
See, that perfect. Happy is perfect.
No obstacles, just opportunities.
Absolutely.
That's right. I like that. Yeah, there's always that. I mean, there has to be a balance. I'm sure there are people too that are the opposite of that help keep you grounded. But Ralph and I are both more of the positive type, and I don't know. Sometimes it gets kind of scary because no one can handle that.
Maybe it's more like the lunatic type.
Looney is not one of the 7 dwarves. I'm sorry, Ralph.
Looney is a $2 coin from Canada.
Oh, there you
That's
go.
another one of those spurious facts, folks.
Appreciate you bringing that in. So I love that. I think in your position, and I've never been an educator in school, but I would think that would really be important to have a real positive outlook, have a good outlook.
You have to, yeah. And I don't know, the things that our kids go through these days, you have to always be pushing them to the next step.
Right.
And not letting them get down on a situation or anything like that. You're telling them what's possible, constantly telling them what's possible.
So do you want to talk about anything you've got working on in this year coming up and everybody wants to know about the high school? I know, like I said, we've got construction going on around us right now. A lot of things happening here at the school, getting it ready for the new year. When does the new year start?
Next week.
Man, next Monday?
Wow.
Well, Monday the staff is back, and on Wednesday the kids are back.
Oh, man, so just a
Really
week.
close.
Yeah.
A week. Anything else going on like that you want anybody to know about?
We're building a new softball field. We're really excited about that. We have not had a softball field on campus. We've had a softball program for, I think 12 to 15 years, but our girls have to go play on the county field, which is horrendous, to be honest. It's in pretty bad disrepair, and it's also shared by little leagues and all the little kids. And so there's one field and all this scheduling, and our junior high was in the same boat, so they were sharing that same one field. And so it's really exciting to have one on campus right now, and it's going to be playable by February.
That's awesome.
Nice.
To have your own field. Yeah, you guys can play, like you said, on campus.
Yes.
And have the kids here.
So, Marci, you got a program. It's called Our Kids Can Do Things. Is that right?
It's not a program; it's a motto.
It's a motto.
It's something that I have. It's near and dear to my heart here in Duncan, and probably any rural town. And that is that we struggle maybe with test scores, but I don't think that's how you should judge a school. And yet that is how we get our letter grades and things like that. But our kids can physically go out in the world and do things compared to take a test.
Right.
So it's just not a good indication of what our kids are capable of, is the test scores. So.
And is that a motto like your motto?
It's
for
my
the school?
motto, yeah.
I think it's a good motto. I like that
it
one.
goes right along with being happy.
I see it fits right in with the dwarf personality. And I almost said, when you said it's a motto, I almost go, what's a motto? Yeah. And then that joke, nothing. What's a motto with you? So that's gonna. But I apparently didn't let it go. It stuck in my head. I had to go. I agree with you. I think tests don't tell enough about a kid, and some people are just not very good at test taking.
Yeah.
They may be good students or good at physically the application of whatever you're teaching them. The test doesn't tell the whole story.
No. And don't get me wrong, it's still something that we are going to focus on and continue to improve in, but we don't focus on that as our main focus. We want our kids to be able to do stuff.
Right. I thought you were going to say something wrong.
Nope.
Oh, never mind. All right. FFA, FBLA. Let's touch on that a little bit. You guys have some good programs going here?
Fantastic programs. Our FFA is just out of this world. We're ranked as a superior chapter here in Arizona for just a little bitty high school.
Outstanding.
One of the things that just made me so proud this last year at state, we sent 28 kids out of our school, which is 20% of our population. We sent them to state. They qualified at districts to go to state.
That's awesome.
And then of those there were 7 teams, and of those 7 teams, 6 of them placed in the top 4 of the state.
Are you serious?
Yeah.
That's amazing.
So again, it comes down to our kids know things. They can do stuff.
Right.
And at those competitions, they're putting that knowledge to work. They're not just checking the boxes on a test.
No, that's a perfect example of what you're saying right there. FFA, FBLA, of just putting that to work.
Right. One of our seniors this last year got the state star in agribusiness. He started his own business. He had a fencing company. He hired other students, and they went and built fence and did some other things, but that was focused around the fence business. But just a fantastic kid, and the skills and everything that he knew. He was a welder. He could do construction. It was just cool. And then he starts his own business. He had a QuickBooks application. The whole 9 yards.
He had it going.
Yeah.
So he was a combination of FFA and FBLA.
Yeah, he put those together.
Wow, that's pretty exciting.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
So there are a lot of amazing things going on here. You got going on here at the school and in Duncan.
Yeah.
And that's phenomenal.
Our kids are really cool. They do some really great things, and they represent our school so well at the state and national levels. It's really, really cool.
You've got to be proud.
Oh, yeah, 100%.
And all the teachers, I'm sure. What a great job you guys are doing out here in Duncan. And ladies and gentlemen, our guest today is principal of Duncan High School, Marci Harris. Marci, thank you for being a guest on today. We appreciate you.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate it.
And don't forget to download our podcast wherever you get your podcasts. Until the next episode, I'm Bob Dahlstrom along with my co-host, Ralph Score. Thanks for listening to Valley's Bits, Bytes, and Banter. We'll talk again soon.